Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the next video. In this video, we will be unboxing, running, giving some opinions on, and evaluating the XICOY X45 turbine. Looking forward to this. Alright guys, been looking forward to this for quite a while. This little turbine is going in the glider that's behind me, which is a Mibo Swift Glider. So really looking forward to opening this thing up, diving into it, running it, seeing how it runs, and getting our fingers and hands a little bit dirty with this awesome new turbine. Now this turbine's been out for a little while, and there's been lots of good feedback on the internet and different forums about the XICOY turbine. But let's dive into this turbine. So I have opened this box already just to pull the turbine out, but I haven't looked at anything else, so let's dig into it. All right, so first thing we have here, quick start guide. So we will refer to that, of course. Holy man, I can't believe how small this thing is. All right, so we've got the user manual, which is on an SD card, I'm assuming, which is super cool. So I like that. All right, so there is what it looks like when it comes out of the box, or the box is opened. So we'll pull each of these things out and take a look at it. Obviously, the first thing is the turbine. I cannot believe how tiny that thing is. Beautiful. Okay, we've got a bunch of different accessories. So we'll put that aside. And we've got a bag of some stuff. And then some stickers, I believe. Yep. Okay, so that's what's in the box. And just looking at things here, so we've got our XICOY, this is the smart data terminal, which is awesome. Our GSU, I guess. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to put this in the glider or not, because obviously weight is a bit of a concern. Now, this weighs hardly anything, but very cool that came with that display unit. We've got, holy crap, our ECU. Wow. I guess that makes sense. With a small turbine, you should be using a small ECU, so that's it. So pretty straightforward, all the normal stuff. We've got our battery connection. This engine uses an a bus system, so like King Tech does as an example in my last video, we've got one cable, I'm assuming, that goes from the ECU to the turbine. And we've got our pump, throttle, and data port. So very simple, nice little ECU. All right, what do we got here? Fuel filter. So that I've seen this kind of fuel filter before on a Ren, I believe. Very fine screens. That's what this looks like, is the exact same filter system as a Ren. So very similar. Now, I've talked about this in other video, guys. If you imagine the filter as a bucket, you want the flow coming from the outside of the bucket to the inside of the bucket. You don't want the flow to go inside the bucket to the outside. So keep that in mind on a fuel filter that doesn't have a direction, okay? And we've got our fuel pump, which is tiny. That is amazing. So a little brushless fuel pump. Uses a servo connector and nice little mounts and everything. So I like the little mount screws that are already built in. That's a nice little trick. Nice little feature. And of course your arrows there telling you which way is the direction of flow. So beautiful little fuel pump. So that's everything on the piece of foam. And then we've got our standard cable setup. So just normal stuff. We've got 4mm Festo line. We've got our throttle cable. And then we've got our other cables here. So this will be a cable going from the ECU to the fuel pump. This will be our battery cable here. And then we've got our bus cable, which goes from the ECU to the turbine. Okay, let's open up this guy and take a look at it. All right, so the turbine itself, teeny weeny little unit. Wow, that's awesome. So I haven't taken this out of the bag yet. This is my first glimpse at it. So absolutely tiny. So for reference, here's a large Rockstar energy drink can. And, oops. There's a shot of the dimensions for you. All right, so turbine itself, really nice little mount that's sized suitably for the turbine. The wow, the exhaust cone is absolutely beautiful, and it's nice and thin as well too. And beautiful turbine wheel. Obviously the balancing marks on the actual wheel itself. So we've got our plug-in for our bus system, our fuel inlet, which is great. The solenoid valves will be underneath the case. One of my initial things here, there's quite an amount of space from the actual compressor wheel to the outside of the case, which is interesting to see. Nice aluminum starter motor mount, very small mount as well too, which is beautiful. So well done. This is a very nicely constructed turbine. Really impressed with this little thing. And we do have 4mm Festo line going into this, which is the line that they included in the system. All right, so we'll put that cover back on. Nice little rubber grommet that goes on there. So beautiful. Okay guys, we're going to weigh things up and just check and see what the total weight is. Now it says engine weight with FOD screen is 395 grams. Airborne package without battery is 470 grams. So we'll just put everything on the scale and see what it comes out to. So we'll pop the engine on there. We're at 394 grams, so 395, so basically right on target. Add the fuel pump up to 425. We'll add the ECU. We're up to 433. Fuel filter brings us to 439. Now for cables, we'll just add all the full-length cables. Obviously with batteries, you can, depending on where you locate it, you can get rid of some of the battery cable. And we'll just put all of the fuel tubing on there as well. So as it sits without the computer, we're at 495 grams for everything. And if we pop the computer on there, total weight is 523 grams. 1 pound is 454 grams, so we're just over a pound. All right, guys, so I think it's time to run this thing. So we are going to get it mounted on my test stand, and we'll get it all ready to run. All right, guys, so there's a couple cool features. I just reviewed the manual that I'm excited to kind of dig into this this turbine and kind of get into this stuff. So the first thing that I saw in the manual was a Caro and diesel selector, so you don't have to mess with all the settings. You just have to basically select whether you're using kerosene, Jet A, or diesel. It's got a power adjustment in it. So rather than adjusting the RPMs, I'm thinking you can just adjust the actual output newtons. Automatic battery recognition, so whether you use a 2-cell LiPo or 3-cell Life battery, it automatically selects and changes things depending on that. Now they do recommend in the manual that you do use a 2-cell LiPo battery, which is what we're going to use to run this today. And also ambient auto tuning, so it's taking the ambient probably temperature and pressures and things like that and auto tuning the engine. So one of the things with the turbine entire setup here, what we were calling the ECU is not the ECU, it's referred to as the hub. The ECU is actually in the turbine itself. Now, a bubble trap is recommended on the final setup. They do say in the manual, if you do use a bubble trap or UAT with a fine screen on it, you can eliminate the filter. And as another side note, the filter is recommended to go on the intake side of the pump. Okay, so most systems you would install it on the outtake side of the pump or the output side of the pump. This one's recommended on the intake side of the pump to keep fine dust particles out of the pump. So keep that in mind. Now, priming, it also talks about priming in the manual too, and I think this is a really important step. So what we're going to do is we're going to prime this fuel system back into our container for about 30 seconds. And what we're doing is we're getting rid of any dust particles in the lines and things like that, because the fuel sticks and combustion sticks in this little turbine are so small that little particles of dust can clog those. So that is talked about in the manual, so make sure you do that. And so that's the basic setup here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start things up. I made a adapter cable to go from Dean's from my battery to the XT60 connector. So we've got that set up. We're going to turn this thing on and just check over the settings and make sure that we are set to run this with kerosene. All right, guys, so we've learned the radio to the ECU. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prime the pump. So just run the fuel through the pump for about 30 seconds. Okay, now that that's done, we can hook the pump up to the turbine. So next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through the menu and we will find the other settings. Okay, so we've done the radio, we've done the info. Let's go into the run settings. So full power is 45 newtons. Okay, so it's all written right there. And if we want to detune it, it's that easy. That's cool. Okay, idle speed. Ambient, Excel, auto. Hot, auto, cold. So this one has the automatic temperature and everything calculations. We'll just leave this stuff to auto. Okay, we'll go to the startup menu. All right, guys, so there's our menu for changing to diesel or kerosene. So we're running kerosene, so we'll keep it there. Here we go. Perfect, so that is awesome. Voltage 8.1, so our battery pack's good. We are, just gonna check my trim up. Yep, so we're good there. I'm just checking the percentage to make sure that it goes up a reasonable amount when you trim up. So we are done all of our tests here. We are ready to run this thing. I'm just going to get it set up and in front of the garage door, and we can do our tests. All right, other thing I forgot was the adjustment of the auto restart. So we'll go into radio, adjust. So we're going to go to the next one. So we're using half expo, restart mode. So auto would be if you get a fuel restriction, it automatically restarts. Restart mode off. Manual, we're going to use manual so we can be up flying the glider. We can turn the engine off and then restart it. So we will try this out. And as soon as you turn it off and it cools down, it goes back into the ready to restart mode, as if you just turned your airplane on. And we are good to go. So step number one, we're going to trim up. Ready to go. Fuel's on. So this is the very first start. Now we're going to simulate as if we're up in the air with the glider, and we've turned the turbine off, and then we'll do a restart. Okay, so we're up in the air, we're ready to restart the turbine. We're still at about 84 degrees and dropping, so we trim back up and restart the turbine. The start should be quicker because the temperature was high. Alright guys, while that turbine's cooling down, I'll just share some initial thoughts with you. Very fast reaction when it's actually above idle. Takes the normal amount of time to go from a true idle up to full. Now we could adjust those things, but we've left everything to auto, which is, for now, is totally fine. So I'm sure with some adjustments you could make it react a lot quicker, but I think in a glider this is going to work out just perfect. Now it did take a little while to get down to the idle setting. So when I was at full throttle and I dropped it all the way to idle, it would come down to about 77-ish thousand RPM, and then it would take a little while to get down into the 60s. So I don't know if that'll change over time or if that's just the way it is, but that's just one of the observations that I had with the turbine. But there we go. She's all cooled off. And very impressed with how that little thing runs. Katie was holding the data terminal so we could see it in view, and her final remark was cute. All right, guys, let's talk about some final thoughts on this amazing little turbine. To sum it all up, very impressive little engine that XICOY's put together. This thing is cute, as my wife called it. It does run extremely well, insanely light. This is definitely a very well-made engine. Ran without a hiccup, started without a hiccup. Really impressed by the features on the data terminal and ECU and that whole setup. And all in all, very impressive. Definitely gets 2 thumbs up in my books. Very happy with this engine, and very happy that I got to do the unboxing and review and run up on this engine. So if you guys have any questions or comments for me or for anybody else, just list them down below in the comments section. If you're thinking about getting one of these things, guys, definitely don't hesitate. They are a great little engine, and you will be impressed with how amazing they run. So thanks guys for tuning in. Again, comments, questions, list them down below. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. We do have some really cool projects coming up in the next couple months. One of them is this glider that's behind me that has this engine going into it. And we also have another really cool project that's getting delivered next week. And it's something that I haven't really toyed with before. It's not an aircraft I would normally look to do for myself, but I'm building it for somebody else, and it's going to be a real treat. So thanks guys for tuning in. Don't forget, when you hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on so you get notified when I release those other videos and other projects. Thank you guys for supporting the channel, and we will see you in the next video.